Welcome to Mentor Conversations at SCORE Houston, where we bring you insights and stories from our mentors. You'll hear from senior executives, entrepreneurs, and professionals who volunteer their time to guide small businesses. SCORE is America's largest network of volunteer business mentors and is supported by the U.S. Small Business Administration. In Houston, we provide free, confidential mentoring and education to help entrepreneurs start, grow, and succeed. Now, let's dive into today's mentor conversation.
Mr. Art Klebba is a successful business owner, a regional manager, and Salesforce trainer for multiple firms he has started with his partners and successfully sold to other companies over the decades of his life. He is an Army Reserve veteran, attended college studying management and accounting, and started at Procter & Gamble, where he learned on-the-job sales skills to complement his college education. He pivoted to the healthcare industry, selling products and services which involved training doctors and nurses in the use of his firm's unique systems, and had the honor to work even with Houston Medical Center legends like Drs. DeBakey and Dr. Denton Cooley. He then went on to develop a company which marketed versatile and specialized medical custom procedure trays, again involving a good deal of training both for his sales force and the medical staff. The company was successfully sold to a larger firm and profitably, and he moved on again to becoming a regional vice president at Maxim Medical Incorporated. This later led to his developing with his former partners a clever mobile surgical instrument repair company. Another firm, IMS, bought their company, and he stayed on as vice president until his retirement in 2013. He consulted with IMS for the next 12 months, working with the sales management team to share his knowledge and experience developing an IMS sales team that generated 23% of the revenue of the company. IMS was sold subsequently to a national healthcare company, which ended his consulting engagement with IMS. 2 years later, he became a certified SCORE volunteer, which leads us to meet Art Klebba for our interview today. Welcome, Art, to our SCORE podcast.
Thank you, Jeff. Good to be here.
All right. Well, we are really impressed with your credentials, and you certainly must be a credit to your people who come to SCORE for volunteer guidance when they start their new business. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to the podcast and for all your years of service to so many of our mentees who have benefited from your diverse and lengthy experience in the business of management, training, and to so many staff employees at several national firms. You are an Army Reserve veteran and attended college to learn management and accounting skills. Do all of your SCORE's mentees need college training for creating their new businesses like you did?
They do not, Jeff. That's something that they have a passion, a desire, they see a market need. That's an opportunity to create a business. They do not need a college degree.
Right. And so that is not a prerequisite. It may have been available to some in the beginning, but it is not necessarily a brick wall to those that want to start a business.
Definitely not.
Yeah. I see from your business history that you have managed the training of technical skills to healthcare sales representatives and taught them to train medical staff in ambulatory surgical centers and hospitals on how to utilize very important methods of sterile surgical procedure trays. Do you use these teaching talents as a SCORE volunteer as well?
Yes, I definitely do, because if you look at it, everyone sells something. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's whether you be a parent selling to your kids or you're selling to your spouse of something that you want to get accomplished or they want to accomplish, you have to be able to help them, guide them in the process of whatever you're working with them on. And it happened to be in the operating room where we were draping surgical patients for surgical procedures, whether that be orthopedic, vascular, neuro, That's what we did. So we had to train them on the process of the surgical drapes that they were using.
Sure. So teaching skills are one of the things we bring to SCORE. And SCORE has been in business since the mid 1960s. And we have over 10,000 volunteers like ourselves. And a lot of it is teaching. I practice medicine. So I was teaching my patients, how to prevent bad health issues from developing later. And I use those skills, with my uh, uh, people that I work with. And it's a partnership, really. We're not just, teaching facts and facts and facts. And I'm sure we're there to help inspire young people and benefit from our 30 and 40 years of work experience. You have owned and operated multiple businesses of your decades of work, and I've noticed, and several have been bought out by other companies after your success. How did you determine the valuation of your company along with your partners? And did you negotiate the transfers profitably, or did you need legal assistance?
Jeff, we had legal assistance, and also the CEO that I reported to was a partner from Arts and the healthcare sector. And between his skill set, he was an accountant by trade originally, and our legal, that's who really worked out the financial packages that we used to sell that business.
Yeah, I have a lot of, our people who come and ask us for help. When we volunteer advice, some of the advice is, I get into this business now. What do I do when I want to get out of it? Is it going to be worth something so I can leave it to my spouse? Can I leave it to my children? Is this a business that I can sell if I need to? How do I value my practice? And we at SCORE, we do have accountants, lots of people with MBAs, and we do have attorneys who can look over the work when it comes to negotiating and selling a practice. It's an interesting question, and lately I've been getting a lot of those answers. People asking for an exit strategy.
Correct.
All right, well, let me ask you this: what was it like to have partnerships like you had with several different companies? Were there differences of opinions from each often as an issue? Or what did you do to advise your SCORE mentees regarding the pros and cons of partnering with friends or other colleagues?
Jeff, probably the most important thing in any partnership is having a written document that really outlines the partnership, and just a 50-50 partnership is really not always, in my opinion, and our business that we had was the best way, because if there's or decision needs to be made, someone has to make that. So we definitely had written documents that outlined our responsibilities, and it helped us work through that.
So, in other words, it's like to have a captain of the ship, there has to be a final decision maker.
Absolutely, yes.
So, this just because you have a couple of good old friends, my experience with partnerships, it's kind of like a marriage and maybe a little more challenging, believe it or not, because you're fighting over money,
Yes.
policy, protocol, how to do things. And it's a way of life. You wind up spending, 40, 50 hours a week with that partner. You get to know them maybe a little too well, and somebody's got to make the hard decisions. So yeah, I can feel what you're saying. How did you finance your initial firms after college? You probably had some debt. Now, being a veteran, maybe you had some benefits, but most people coming out of college are really shouldered with a lot of debt. Were there challenges to securing the funding you needed? And how did you overcome them? What determined which companies were more successful than others now that you look back in retrospect?
Well, Jeff, I will say the first company that whenever I left corporate America and joined the other three partners, it was really a sweat equity deal for me. I met a gentleman I went into partnership with through a mutual friend who had worked with the CEO at Arts. So that was my really introduction to it. And I had to put in some money. It wasn't a great deal, but basically it was sweat equity. I took a 50% reduction from the corporate world to join this organization. And from there, we built a thriving business.
Yeah, Interesting approach. When you say sweat equity, you mean you're going to kind of maybe reduce some of your income, but for the long haul, you're going to wind up, maybe there's an incentive where you can be paid in stock if the company becomes successful. That would certainly motivate me.
And
So,
that's exactly what it was.
yeah, I always encourage the people I work with who come to SCORE, the mentees always saying, "Oh, I want to borrow this and that." I say, let's keep this overhead really low because it's easier to show a profit on a lower overhead company than on a fancy office and a big factory. So try to, keep the expenses down. It's amazing how that works. All right, let me ask you this. Did you have the benefit of a role model or a mentor? Someone we do like what we do at SCORE as volunteers. We guide you. Did you have somebody to guide you along on your journey towards successful business ownership and financial independence?
I did, Jeff, and this gentleman really made me realize the importance of the business relationships and the personal relationship with not only the people I was working with, but also the customers that I was calling on. And really, that helped guide me, remembering how important it was to have those relationships for the long haul. Because being in healthcare for 40 years, a lot of the customers I began with when I first got in healthcare, I was still working with after 40 years.
Wow. So you kept those relationships.
Absolutely. That was very, very important in my success in the healthcare industry.
So good interpersonal relationships and skills are essential. In fact, I always tell the people I work with as their mentor, I always tell them, you in this digital world, sometimes we're not learning how to interact socially with others or carry on a conversation. We're so busy watching the screen, the iPad, TV. It's hard to teach younger people, I find, how to carry on an intelligent conversation and maintain it. And you're really selling yourself when you ask and validate somebody about asking about them. Don't talk about yourself. I've taught teenagers, and I always found they just want to talk about themselves. And, I always tell my students, if you want to bore people, then talk about yourself. So the one book I always tell everyone to read who I work with is an 85-year-old book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Influence people. That is correct.
Exactly. It's now you can it's a $10 book you can get at Amazon or an audio book, but it's an $1,100 course you can take. And I just don't think the course is going to be any better than reading the 10, 12 things he has to teach in that book to teach you to, you're selling yourself before you ever sell your product or service. So good relationships, hard to teach these days with the digital world.
One of the most important skills in any business is a listening skill.
Absolutely.
You have
Remember,
to talking. You have to hear what the customer's saying.
Exactly. Listen. I always tell my students, shut up and listen.
Absolutely.
Validate them. Yeah. And remember their name. That's the best pat on the back. That's the best way to esteem somebody is listen and remember their name. How are you feeling? Were you a little scared when you started your first independent business? And
Absolutely.
yeah. But I think we all, I was shaking in my boots, and I'm sure you were too. How did you mitigate your fears and minimize your financial exposure to loss?
Well, one of the things my wife and I did whenever we started this journey is we lay down a budget. We knew what our expenses were by month, by category, and we really made a decision on what we could live with and without. And from there, we really moved forward. It was one of those things. It was scary. First thing she said whenever I came in and we had the discussion about what else to do, and I told her about compensation reduction. She said, "Are you sure we want to do this?" And I kind of laughed. I said, "Not absolutely, but I think so." Yeah, that was the best decision we ever made.
So there's going to be some sacrifice along the way. There's going to be some risk involved. As long as you face it, maybe with your partner or even alone, write down what the risks are, write down what your exposure is. That's what I tell them. Let's write down what your fears are. Let's put it in perspective. And if your credit is not good, we're going to talk to you about repairing some of your credit. We have funding sources that are good, even if your FICO, your credit score is down in the mid 600s. We can, help with that, but you're going to get very good deals if you be conscious about how important it is to keep your credit history as clean as possible, and we can help you clean it up if necessary. Yeah. So, what do you think are the biggest challenges to starting a new business in our current economic climate? And I know there's several questions here. Oh, what special cautions do you offer to your SCORE mentees when starting up their business challenges?
I think the biggest is know your market, know your customer. Who is your customer? And specifically, what value will you bring to that customer with your product or service? Are there Me Too's out there? If there are Me Too's, what sets you apart from those Me Too's? Why should I buy from A, me, instead of B? You have to give solid reasons just because you're a nice person, because that doesn't sell anything. You have
Sure.
to have a value of the product or service that you're offering.
Yeah. What problems are you solving? What are your solutions?
Exactly.
And so we're talking about market research. So we have our folks do a business plan. And
Yes,
one of the parts of it is you've got to go do market research. If there's no need for your business, why waste your time?
correct.
Yeah. So yeah, that's advice well given. So before you go into a market, make sure there's people who can afford what you're selling. Look at your competition, visit your competition, find out what their services are, what their price structure is, and can you compete on a even basis or a better basis than the service they're performing. So yeah, that's advice well taken. We can save our mentees so much money.
We can.
Yeah, and I think over the years you've probably saved tens of thousands of dollars of foolish mistakes that is so easy for beginners to make. Yeah,
Well, I want to give you an example of, I guess I would consider it a say, I had a mentee that came to me and was looking to buy a dude ranch in hill country. And she wanted her plan to take her total 401k and invest that in the dude ranch. Also, uh, I said, what number one, you never invest your whole 401k because what happens if it fails? You have no money left in for your retirement planning. And number two
exactly.
is the family would not share the books. I said, that's flag number two. And was able, she made that, I said, it's your business decision, but she made a decision not to move through with that deal. So as far as I was concerned, I accomplished what I needed to do working with that client. And she made
Yeah,
a business decision.
yeah. We may be older, but we are experienced and we've seen the mines in the minefield.
Yes.
That's why that business plan is so important. Do that market research. And if somebody's hesitant to show you really what the books are, tax returns,
Yes.
I hear alarms going off right away, right?
Immediately. The red flags all over the place.
All right. Well, we actually already talked about this already, but for SCORE mentees with a weak credit history, what do you do to assist them in finding funding? What is SCORE's relationship with the Small Business Administration? And what are CDFIs for our mentees to understand?
We have a number of resources, and I always tell people when they're looking for funding is one, the business plan is the key, but there are a number of banks out there that do work with small businesses. And the one thing the banks are really concerned, how am I going to get my money back? How will you repay me for what I'm? And the other thing you want to always make sure of is the amount you're asking for. It's not just to cover what you want to, just your startup. You have to have more than that because they want to know you reach a point, you need more money. They would rather you borrow more upfront than have to come back and look at borrowing again. And we've had bankers come to us and to talk to us on working with small businesses on funding that have shorter credit ratings. And I've referred multiple people to those banks through the years, and they've been able to help.
Yeah. And these kind of banks we're talking about, they have people there, on the phone who will just
Absolutely.
talk to you and look at your business plan, your financial statement, your credit score, your bank statements, and kind of see how responsible you are, what efforts you're making to be responsible in paying your bills over the years, and that plays a role. And obviously, you'll get a better break. And I should mention here that research has shown that the one hand, you want to minimize your exposure and risk involved. On the other, you don't want to undercapitalize the business because that's the number one cause for business failure.
Yes.
Half of the businesses go down because they didn't borrow enough. So it is nice to have a SCORE member be able to guide you through, what's reasonable. I've had a couple of people tell me they want to borrow $1.5 million for this dream business. But at that point, the banks are going to ask you, what have you got to pledge to kind of, collateralize this kind of loan? Can you put up 20% of it? Then we'll talk to you. Well, a lot of people can't put up $300,000. That's why they're going to the bank. So dream big, but finance as little as you can, but keep it comfortable. So maybe for at least a year, you can stay in business.
Correct.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you find being a SCORE volunteer for all these years has been a fulfilling service and experience for you in your retirement?
Jeff, it has been. I think I probably has learned as much from the clients through these years as I've been able to impart to them. I worked with businesses that I never thought about were out there, and it's really made a difference. I get excited about the successes. I don't care how small they are, with the people I've had the opportunity to work with. It's, whether it's just a small sale or just a new product that they developed and put in the market, it's exciting because they get enthusiastic. Enthusiasm helps feed our conversations, and really helps them grow their business as well.
Yeah, and I'm retired also, and a lot of our members are, but we've had 30, 40, some of us 50 years of experience making a lot of mistakes and hopefully having a lot of successes. And that's why we share that with it. And for those who are listening who want to become a SCORE volunteer, we are an extremely recognized organization nationally for, let's see, so for about
50 years.
Yeah, 50 years now. We're having our 50th
60
anniversary.
60 years. We just
60
had
years.
our 60th anniversary.
But who's counting at this point?
That's right.
Yeah. At 60 years, we are really like a non-government organization. We are the resource of the Small Business Administration. Our offices are in the Small Business Administration in Houston, at least, down on 59 and Gessner. We are happy to do the work we do because we have success stories. And if if we get somebody, just maybe with one service or product and it whets their appetite and they pivot and maybe now they got 3 products. Once they get a little entrepreneurship, I think they're never going to go looking for another job again because they like that financial independence. So yeah, I find it very rewarding. And a lot of these people are very talented. They've got a side gig, maybe an artist or a coin collector. They can monetize that and we can show them how. So it's a side gig that they can keep their day job until they start making some real money of their own. And they become their own boss. Let me ask you this. If there is a mentee requesting a specific assistance that you cannot provide from your education and experience, what alternatives do you have to help this mentee get the best advice that they can via SCORE?
Jeff, that's a great question. And the one thing that, and I'm speaks specifically to Houston's chapter, and this is true across the country, we have the ability to do a literally search of our mentors in the Houston chapter and across the country for a specific need that I may not have. And one thing I've learned early on in this business of working with clients is that I never do just an individual mentoring. There's generally 2 of us at least, and I read their profile sheet when I get it, and I've tried to put together a team of SCORE mentors that matches what their needs are and what their requests are. And that way we start off from the beginning on the right path to get them where they want to go.
That's great advice. And it's nice to know we have such a diversified
Yes.
group of talented individuals in our chapter, 135 people now. And, whether it's accountants, bookkeepers, doctors, lawyers, managers, people who've been in so many different businesses, skill sets, and levels of education, we can bring them in and bring them to bear on your business. And we're all volunteers. We're glad to do it. There is no hesitation in bringing others in. So you've got the virtues of specialists, no matter what you're going into. Now, a lot of people who are getting into a certain business and have no experience in it, besides helping them with their business, the first thing I tell them to do is go get a job working in this business for somebody else, learn the business, do an internship, and I can help them, maybe even find some jobs, because we've got a lot of people who know a lot of people, so we can network with you. And I did, and I found some jobs in Austin and San Antonio even for these folks who were trying to start businesses. So we can get national assistance, national networking and guidance. And that's the nice thing about SCORE. We are a national organization. We have a very strict code of ethics. And while we can't profit or invest in your company, we can give you the advice and the skill set, the templates to help you build the documents you need to help you get the funding and guidance that you need. All right, well, thank you so much for your help, Art. We are grateful for your time and expertise with your extensive business ownership and management and training skills that you bring to SCORE as one of our most valued volunteers. I know your applicants for assistance in their own startups or business expansions, but they must be so grateful for your wise counsel. I know we at SCORE are proud of your years of service and unique competency in so many critical areas of business ownership, sales management of large U.S. or regions of the United States, and successfully accomplishing all you have over all these years. Again, thank you for sharing your time, your knowledge so generously and selflessly with so many as a volunteer for SCORE. And those of you who wish to become a volunteer or seek our volunteers' guidance and experience, we do it all as a volunteer basis. There is never a fee, and you've simply got to go to our website, score.org. Log in, and you have access to all of our resources, our libraries. So look into SCORE one day. It's a national organization, and wherever you live in the country, we've got a chapter near you. Thank you so much for your time, Art. It's been a pleasure as always. All right, bye now.
Thanks for listening to Mentor Conversations at SCORE Houston. If you're an entrepreneur or small business owner, we'd love to support your journey. You can reach us at 713-487-6565 or visit us at 8701 South Gessner, Suite 1200, Houston, Texas 77074. Our office is open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., except for federal holidays. Walk-ins are always welcome. To learn more, to request free mentoring, or to register for workshops, visit us online at score.org/Houston. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, at SCORE, we're here to help you thrive.